Hi, I'm Barbie. This is part 2 of a 2-part overly in-depth analysis of Barbie as the Princess and the Pauper. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, go do that now. Barbie would do it. Be more like Barbie. You can be anything you want, at least Barbie says you can. So be the person who chooses to watch all 46 minutes of part 1 and likes, comments, and subscribes. Then come on over here and watch part 2. See you soon!
So let's go right into it. Part 3, the music, aka the plot. Again, I'm going to try to summarize as little of the plot as possible as I break down these songs. And I'm going to try to do it a little bit quicker because I spent a lot of time breaking down the plot of this movie. And I have a lot more to say, unfortunately. The first song we get is Free. And that's the duet between Annalise and Erica. It's an I Want song, a double I Want song, where you get both of them singing about literally what they want. And it's honestly just a really competently produced song when you listen to it. And a lot of what makes that the case is because the singers they chose to cast are phenomenal. Now, Annalise and Erica, the speaking parts, they are both voiced by eternal Barbie voice Kelly Sheridan. She actually did a good job distinguishing these two characters' voices. For Annalise, she does like the very classic Barbie voice, but for Erica, she chooses kind of almost like a deeper, almost more alto voice. She just sounds a little bit more like the girl next door, you know? But the singing parts are two different women. I believe it's Melissa Lyons for Annalise and Julie Stevens playing Erica. I didn't look up a whole lot about their IMDb's. I think that one or both of them has been like Broadway productions, theater, whatever. Anyways, they are both extremely competent singers. You can tell just by their vocal performances. And they did a great job casting these roles because of how well their voices jive together. In fact, I would argue that all of the duets in this movie, their voices mesh so well. It sounds nice to hear them together. You know, some people just duet well together. I can't think of the musical term for it. Harmonize well. Yeah, okay. And sometimes, you know, you can have two very good singers because, you know, they have different keys, they have different styles of singing, they just don't mesh. And you've seen that in movies. You have definitely seen that in movies with professionals. But in this case, in this Barbie movie, they did something right. It's just very, very clean, very crisp, very singable, very marketable, and it's a blast to listen to. And honestly, the music, the score, it just builds, and there's like this very like Disney-like quality to it, even like with the opening kind of transition into the first verse.
To the Horticultural Society tea. And then there's your math lessons, your geography lessons, your science lessons.
All my life I've always wanted.
Sounds like Beauty and the Beast to me. The other thing I'll touch on real quick is instrumentation. So whether they meant to or not, you can tell because I mentioned already, they kind of emulated a sort of like 18th century France style with the costume, especially Premier's costume. He's got that full Rococo Frenchman look. It's common knowledge that this movie is like based on a certain time period. And so what they did, because Barbie movies pay attention to music and to the arts, is that they made the music and the instrumentation emulate that time period. If you listen to it, and listen, I'm sorry, I noticed these things because even though I only took like a semester or two of music theory and music history in college, you start to notice things. And what I noticed that this music is actually like written in a very classical style. You can tell by the way that the melodies work and the way that the instruments work, and you have like a lot of horns, especially, and I'm getting ahead of myself again here, and How Can I Refuse? You have like this really like punchy like horn like basso continuo. If you've ever heard that march from Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet. It sounds really similar, like the bass line of How Can I Refuse is obviously the horn section going bum, 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 like over and over again.
I've been bowing, I've been scraping, I've been lying like a rug, and for 10 long years I've had to pay my dues.
So like you just notice these things, you notice the active choices that the composer made when he wrote these pieces. You know, he could have very much modernized them, and they did that in Princess and the Pop Star. No, but no, he chose to follow very classical music writing style, still very much influenced by like musical theater, etc. But like the general style of the music kind of gives you this feel of like Baroque and classical and Mozart and Haydn, and you can just kind of see it. And to be a princess even, they use a harpsichord. They mention a harpsichord, and you hear a harpsichord go off on like a little like motif for that part, but then you hear it blend back into the melody.
Curtsy to every count and lord, learn how to play the harpsichord, sing lullabies and always harmonize in thirds, thirds,
has been there the entire time. And if you listen to the beginning of To Be a Princess, you can hear it. Harpsichord sound, I don't know how to describe, toothier than a piano. Like, I don't know how else to describe that, but you can tell when you hear one. So they chose to use a harpsichord, a very Baroque classical instrument. So let's just back up a little bit because I'm getting really ahead of myself. I get kind of excited when classical music is involved. So, free. Great. It does exactly what a I Want song should do, establishes what the characters want, but also sees through to a eventual conclusion. Like I said earlier, they both conclude that they are going to stay where they are. As much as they would love to be free, they know that it's more important to follow through with their responsibilities than it is to just go off and do whatever. Great. Awesome. Story begins. Then literally the very next thing we get is the villain song, and How Can I Refuse honestly could have its own video, and I will probably make one because this video is going to be too long already. I don't have the time or the space to talk about everything that works with How Can I Refuse. All I can say that I haven't said already is that it is a very, very competent villain song, and it is honestly up there with a lot of Disney villain songs for me, especially on a rewatch, because you had a lot of fun with it when you were a kid. But now that I know things about music and about musical theater, like rewatching it was like, holy cow, the lyrics, the play on words in this song is honestly so beyond what a Barbie movie villain song should be. It's almost incredible. Like, you think, who wrote this? But the important thing about How Can I Refuse, now with my newfound knowledge thanks to Sideways, binge watching his videos over the past day and a half, is that usually villains get an I Am song versus an I Want song, because you don't really want to know their motivations. It complicates the story. You can have a villain I Want song. A good example is Hellfire from Hunchback of Notre Dame. But usually you get an I Am song. It's usually just saying this is who the person is, this is how they're perceived, or this is how they think of themselves. And the song does do that to some degree, but it also goes a step further and explains to you what Preminger wants and why he wants it. But it's done in such an over-the-top way, thanks to Martin Short's impeccable overacting, like I mentioned before, that you don't really empathize with him. You just see, okay, this is a dude that's gonna do what it takes to get what he wants. Like, this is a guy that knows how to plot and connive. And it's kind of hilarious. Like, it has a lot of humor to it. It has a lot of impact to it. It's just an all-around great villain song, and the only thing holding it back, honestly, is the animation. They do the best with what they have, but like I disclaimed at the beginning of this video, this animation is what it is, okay? It's a Barbie movie. It's not top of the line, but if you look at like the stage directing and like the camera work, where they chose to put things and the angles, you know, it's not bad. I don't know a whole lot about like filmography, especially when it comes to animated movies, but like they have to decide what angle they're gonna animate, so there's definitely more awkward editing for a Barbie movie. Not much, I will say. Next is I'm Just Like You, the earworm that was made especially to market singing dolls to children. Yes, we had both of those dolls and we loved them. They were our favorite dolls. We also had the carriage and the Dominic/Julian doll, because for some reason they only made one doll for Dominic and Julian, which is really ironic when you think about the Princess and the Pauper, the ones that look the same and switch places. Okay, whatever. I've already said most of what I need to say about this vis-a-vis the plot, because it's so integral to the plot, and learning these two women actually have more in common than they think. Or Erica makes that connection, then Annalise kind of catches on, because at first it's like, how the heck am I just like a pauper? And again, we'll get to that later, because that is important thematically, and it's fun. It's a fun song, it's a fun duet, we have a good time, it's great. Oh, I skipped over Written in Your Heart, because that's the song that Erica sings that Annalise hears, but we're just gonna skip over it anyway, because it comes back at the end and it comes back better, so it's just a little ditty. Next we have To Be a Princess, obviously. Okay, I've already mentioned the harpsichord. I'm going to mention that again. It's a fun song. It gives a lot of insight into what Annalise had to go through. And I've actually already said everything I need to say about To Be a Princess. I told you it was hard to separate these two sections. And the next is Cat's Meow. Cat's Meow is fine. It was honestly my least favorite because it's just kind of a filler song, and I always thought it was a little bit boring and unnecessary. But I mean, the message is nice, like I said, it's about, okay, be happy with who you are, don't try to be someone you're not, which is also ironic considering what's happening in the plot right now with everybody pretending to be someone they're not or accidentally becoming someone that they're not. It's borderline too prevalent to be intentional. But nonetheless, we get this song. We also get a reference to Noah's Ark, which means there's canonically a god in the Barbie multiverse. I mean, other than Barbie? Okay, so after that we get the love duet. I haven't been able to talk about the love duet yet. It's called If You Love Me for Me. And it is honestly a beautiful song. It's almost not long enough, but it's between Dominic and Erica. This song is interesting because I almost thought it was a pre-existing song, but it wasn't. It was composed for this piece because it sounds like kind of like an English folk song to me. And I haven't studied English folk songs, but that's what made me realize that this movie intentionally emulated the time period that it based itself on, is because all these songs sound like they could probably maybe exist in this universe, at least from a like musical composition standpoint. And this song in particular, even the lyrics, once a lass met a lad, you're a gentle one, said she. That's like some pastoral romantic poetry shit. You just don't hear people talk like that anymore, even in song. But like it sets up this like cool little picture, and then you get this really sweet song about I will be with you if you promise to love me for me, which again is super ironic considering the fact that she is literally not the person she says she is. You also get a montage of the two of them spending time together and falling in love throughout the course of this song. And then that polyharmony hits.
Who can say where we'll go? Who can promise what will be?
And oh my god, it gives me chills every time because like I mentioned before, these two, their voices are just buttered together. It's beautiful and they're great singers. So when that polyharmony hits, you have Erica singing the A melody while Dominic repeats the B melody, and it is freaking gorgeous. It's musically more complex than it should be. It's just, it slaps way harder than it has any right to. The music in this movie slaps way harder than it has any right to from a musical composition standpoint. And I wish that I had more technical knowledge of music theory. I really did. All I have is my experience as a classical musician and my little bit of formal education in college. I was a music performance minor, so I only know what I know. I have not studied this like a 4-year program or anything. I'm sorry. I wish I could do this better. I know enough to notice things, okay? So if any of you guys out there, if you like really know music theory, if you really know music really well, and if I've said anything wrong or inaccurate, I would actually really like to know, because I'm literally just going off of what I know in this moment right now. Okay, so we move on. So next we get the reprise of How Can I Refuse, but this time is How Can You Refuse? I already mentioned it. It is the vehicle with which Preminger manipulates the queen into marrying him, takes advantage of this poor woman's desperation and vulnerability, and is honestly kind of heartbreaking and chilling. And it's really clever and well done how they repurposed the lyrics to fit this new context and change how can, I already said this. I'm not going to say it again. What's funny is like, you knew this from the villain song too, but like, yes, he's interested in ruling, but what he really wants, like his real like motivation for doing what he does is he literally wants the crown. He literally wants that thing sitting on top of his perfectly coiffed head. That is what he wants, and everything else that comes with it. He wants all the stuff, like the power is great, but he just wants the stuff. He is materialistic to the nth degree, which is, a great foil for the kind of the main message of this movie, which is that, your status and rank and all that sort of thing don't matter. It's a great reprise. It's just this. It's a great reprise. And then we get a To Be a Princess reprise when Erica's in prison, except that she's hit rock bottom, so she's actually really like emotionally distraught, and she like cries during the song, which is really sweet because she's trying to use this song to encourage herself, and she realizes, I don't have the chops, I'm not a princess, and this song is not for me. But then that like leads her to use her own skills to problem solve her way out of this situation. Etiquette and proper conduct aren't going to do it, because that's not how you break out of prison. So it's just a short little blip, but like it's significant, like it's not there for nothing. And then finally, we get the Written in Your Heart reprise, which is the finale. So this song is probably the most Barbie song out of all the songs, like just the lyrics. It goes like, if you live your dreams, you'll find destiny. Yeah, okay, so it's very cheesy and very like cliche Barbie. This movie isn't immune to cliche Barbie things. It very much is. But Disney movies do the same thing, arguably, so it doesn't do any worse. It doesn't commit any more egregious sins than a Disney movie does, in my opinion. Anyways, but the finale is great because this song was kind of a throwaway song that was just meant to be. This is what Erica was singing in the park when she was trying to, get some extra money. And the song comes back with more impact and adds a lyric that you didn't hear because it cut away from her to like get back to Annalise in the middle of her song. And the lyric that it shares is this.
You and I will always be celebrating life together.
So now not only do you have this whole like follow your dreams thing, but now you have this really sweet realization, hey, we're gonna be friends forever because we're the same. I'm a girl like you. Like, it doesn't reference that song, but like it has that implication. It's great. It's really great. And then it does exactly what a musical finale should do. It builds upon the original song, whereas the first was a solo, this one is a duet, and then it ends. I told you. And then it ends in an ensemble chorus with the double wedding, and they turn, and you might as well have a curtain call here. This is the Barbie movie equivalent of a curtain call at this point, because you have all four of our protagonists who've now been married, double wedding, woo, and they turn towards the audience and kind of break the fourth wall, but also like, you know, generally you turn towards the guests after you like get married, so like it works both ways. That's when the chorus picks up the chorus.
When you live your dream, you'll find destiny. These dreams land in your heart.
And the song ends, and the movie ends, and it's great. And then you have the pop song. Even the pop song at the end, it's called I'm on My Way by Sarah Niemitz? Some like acoustic Michelle Branch sounding lady that I've never heard before or since, but this song slaps. It's like a very solid pop song end credit song. And the lyrics are like fairly like relevant to the movie. And it kind of feels sort of like a girly Barbie version of Always Know Where You Are, the end credit song from Treasure Planet. I'm sad that I noticed that, but it does. It has some like similar like melody things, chord structure things going on. I don't know. I was just reminded of it. Even the end credit song is good. And it's a bop, and you can listen to it, and it's very listenable, and that's the music. That's my subpar musical analysis of the music. And there's little themes that like reoccur. Preminger has a couple of fun little themes, like there's little like bassoon or oboe solo whenever he enters a room that goes bum 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 bum, and it's like very like iconic almost. You get this very minor key version of like the bridge from Free whenever there's like a really dramatic scene. In Free they have this in unison part where they sing I close my eyes and feel myself fly. Okay, but then you have the melody of that put in a different key, running through the score, especially whenever there's something dramatic, and accompanied by strings going up and down like an arpeggio, very Mozart-ian. Okay, you see these little musical moments kind of repeat themselves in very like relevant ways, and it's nice. Okay, it's just nice. It's nice when people think about these things and put them in movie scores, even if the movie you're scoring is a Barbie movie intended for 4 to 7-year-old girls and their reluctant parents. It's nice that somebody gave a shit. Somebody gave a shit about the story, about the characters, about the music, and that means a lot. And that means you can overlook some of the flaws, like the weird animation. Essentially, is the biggest flaw you have to overlook is the animation. So that's it. That's it for the music, because now it's time for part 4, the themes. No, I totally did not go and get a beer in between takes. Part 4, the themes! I'm getting a little loopy, which means this gets more fun. Also, I'm going to be reading off of my notes this time because this is a little bit technical and ridiculous, and I want to make sure that I do it right. So I've been trying not to like reference my notes too much, but in this case, I'm making an exception because it's getting late and I want to articulate. Okay, so it's a Barbie movie. It's not a freaking work of classic literature. It's not trying to be something that it's not. But if it's a competently written children's story, then it's gonna have some themes, whether they're simple or not. So obviously, like this little quote at the end of the credits where it's just "Live your dream," says Barbie. And it's a cop-out. It's a total cop-out. It's a red herring theme because that's not the theme, and I can prove it. Yes, living your dream is a great message to give kids, I guess, but like it just like reeks of Disney-fied nonsense. I would argue that living your dream isn't really the point, even though there's a pretty clear through line about like doing what makes you happy. But what there is more of via the songs and via just the plot details is duty versus desire. right? So the very first song, Free, establishes their characters' motivations and then goes on to say that even though it's what they want to do, they're not going to pursue these dreams because they have something that they are responsible for. First, there's the line about, you know, I would take flight, but would it be right? My conscience tells me stay, and they harmonize. And then there's a line where they say, duty means doing the things your heart may well regret. It's talking about sacrificing what you want in order to do your duty, or in other words, fill the expected roles of your social class in this case. So both characters are in fact bound by their obligations within their social classes for good reasons. One is in generational debt. The other is royalty and has to do what royalty do. So they can't just up and leave, and they know that, and they actively choose not to. But because of other forces working against them, they both get thrown outside their comfort zones, and circumstances change, and then they have to redefine what that means, and they actually learn that they can kind of have what they want. Whether it's plot convenient or not, both of these characters do get what they want in the end. But I would argue that this is conveyed as a positive thing and a thing that makes sense in the context of the story. You know, the message here is that sometimes duty is not duty. Sometimes duty is duty. Sometimes what you think is responsibility and obligation is actually a social or mental construct that you are stuck in, either because this is how you were raised or this is the society that you live in. In Erica's case, the society she lives in, her family was poor, she inherited their debt. It's unfair, but it's just how the world works for her. And in Annalisa's case, duty is because she was born into a royal life. She has obligations because of the plain fact that that's the family she was born into. She didn't ask for it. Neither of them asked for the lives they were born into, but they were born into them. And so they see that this is my duty. This is what I'm meant for. And sometimes that's wrong, right? Right? And while you shouldn't just go off and do whatever the heck you want and never be responsible, that's not the point of this movie. Or that's not the point of what these two characters discover. What they discover is that if they think outside of the social system, they can actually have what they want. That the problem was not them, it was the system. In Annalisa's case, she thinks outside of the economic box and realizes that their whole conception of value was wrong. Once gold runs out, what has value? Well, rocks have value. If they have crystals inside them that you disregarded because you just saw it as a rock, it's kind of deep, actually, when you think about it. Meanwhile, you have Erica's arc, which is just a little bit trickier because in the end, Annalise pays her debt for her, therefore putting Erica in Annalise's spiritual debt for like the rest of forever. But Erica didn't have to work for it, right? She was working towards it, but this wasn't a situation that she had put herself in. This was a situation that she inherited. But here's the kicker. Erica would not be in Annalise's good graces if she hadn't been bold enough to question the social system in the first place and boldly declare, after meeting the princess and hearing how different their lives were, I am a girl like you. Which leads me to the second, arguably more important theme, that this movie is about egalitarianism and transcending your social class on accident. Listen, when the writers of this movie set out to make this movie, they were not trying to tell a story about class inequality, right? And how to rise above your social status. But it just kind of got baked in there, either because of their cultural context, you know, or whatever, you know, the historical context, something got worked in there on accident. And unfortunately for you, I noticed it. But when you pay attention, there is an actual through line of lower class individuals in particular rising above their station and bettering their prospects by refusing to bow to the social caste system of this ambiguously 18th century French town. You are not bound by your social class, says this movie. Social class is an illusion. All Barbies are created equal. Let's run through the evidence, okay? I have evidence to substantiate this, okay? Exhibit A, Erica. Obviously, we already know how she rises above her social class, but it's how she does this that matters. She sees the humanity behind the princess's status and acknowledges her as an equal, not as a superior, simply because they both have somewhere else they'd rather be. It doesn't even matter to Erica that Annalise's plight is so very trivial compared to her own. The fact that she is a young woman bound by duty and captured by the social system who wants something else for her life is enough to put her on an equal par with a pauper. It's very progressive when you really think about it. And also the fact that they look alike, that kind of makes them equals too, I guess. Hey, arguably you could say that's kind of symbolism for an internal equality, if you want, on accident. The movie did not employ symbolism intentionally, I guarantee you, except maybe the geos. The geos are symbolic, but they kind of explicitly spell that out in dialogue, but still, it's nice. It's a nice touch, right? Exhibit B, Julian. Like I mentioned, way back when, we learned in the fresh air scene that he was in fact a commoner who grew up poor in the village in a one-room apartment with his family. He says he did all his studies there, which means homeboy worked hard to become a scholar. Now, we don't know his full backstory. Did he fund his own college education? Did he find a sponsor? Did he, work in the palace as a servant boy and then worked his way up by proving his merits? We don't know, and it doesn't matter. What we do know is that Julian is not a nobleman or a courtier or a son of a nobleman or a courtier, nothing like that. He is a poor man's son who happened to be really smart and used his intelligence to better his prospects and rise above his socioeconomic status. And then here's where it gets good. Exhibit C, Preminger. That's right, Preminger. There's a line in his villain song, practically a throwaway line, where upon realizing or being told that Annalise is already engaged to a king, he says, and I quote, "No, I won't let go. This peasant's son won't turn and run." And through that little tiny line, you get a lot of insight into why he is the way he is and how he ended up where he is. Preminger transcended his social class. He's not a nobleman. He's not a courtier. He's a poor man's son. Now, once again, there's a lot of backstory missing here, but based on the fact that he's a villain, and his lines at the beginning of the song are, "I've been bowing, I've been scraping, I've been lying like a rug, and for 10 long years I've had to pay my dues," we can infer, through subtext, that he probably lied and cheated and connived his way to power. Obviously, he's a pretty manipulative, convincing guy, and to get to a point where he was that trusted by the queen, he had to be pretty good at ass kissing, which he was, and he literally says that. So maybe he started out as a palace servant or a tutor like Julian. Someone can go write that backstory fan fiction if you wish. It doesn't matter. What matters is that social hierarchy in this universe is not concrete. Or at the very least, this particular kingdom on a mountainside is undergoing some serious social and ideological change at the time of this movie. Liberté, égalité, fraternité!
Do you hear the people sing the song of angry men?
And while there is no, overt mentions to the revolution or to anything resembling a peasant's revolution, this movie isn't that advanced. It's kind of funny that, you can kind of connect those dots just via the references that the movie makes. So once you pair that up with the whole princess and pauper switching places thing, now you have a story that accidentally says, hey, you're not bound by your social class. You can rise above, for better or for worse. And through Annalise's perspective, you also learn that the inverse is true. Social class is a construct. You are only a princess in the context of the system you were born into. And what's more, nobody outside the palace walls cares. Your problems, your needs and wants are peanuts compared to the plight of the common man. And furthermore, you and the common man are equal by virtue of having problems, regardless of how far apart on Maslow's hierarchy of needs they are. Serendipitously, this 2004 CGI Barbie adaptation of an 1881 Mark Twain novel actually has something to say about social class and about social construct and how we tend to put ourselves in boxes and limit ourselves based on where we are on the socioeconomic ladder. Or maybe it's an animated Barbie movie where characters are singing platitudes and I'm just fabricating meaning out of it because I'm a 20-something with extreme nostalgic bias towards this movie. Whatever, screw it, Barbie as the Princess and the Pauper slaps. I know I've talked long enough. I know I've talked way longer than long enough. I know that my brain is short-circuiting. But if there's time to put this in, I'm gonna put in. I have a little appendix. little details that slap. Because the mark of a good children's movie is that even though it's intended for kids and usually has a simple story with a simple message, there's usually little things baked in there that will go over kids' heads that adults will notice and appreciate, whether it's cultural references, pop culture references, whatever. They don't have to be innuendos, and in fact, it's kind of gross when they all are, so it's better that they're like something just a little bit more like mature, intellectually mature, that like a kid wouldn't get right off the bat, that an adult would appreciate. But sometimes, because kids actually are smart, they will notice these things and appreciate them. So I have a couple of things that I just wanted to like point out just for fun, because they were actually pretty fun. The first is the fool's gold motif. Okay, so at the very beginning, or towards the very beginning, you have Annalise nerding out, classifying some rocks, right? And Julian walks in to like tell her that it's time to go meet the king, and she says, I classify this as fool's gold. And he's like, you know, swooning because like that's his bae, and he's like, oh, I'm so proud of you, you're so smart. Anyway, so that's all we get, little blurb, fool's gold. And then later on in the movie, way later in the movie, you have Preminger come into her room and it's like, look at this letter, and he sees the fool's gold on her desk, looks at it, and without a second thought, steals it. No dialogue, no acknowledgement, just sees the gold, puts it in his pocket. He's so greedy and like so used to stealing gold, he doesn't even question whether it's real or not. And I love the subtext of, oh my gosh, this is fool's gold. If you paid attention, you saw Annalise classify it as fool's gold, and now Preminger has taken it. He's a fool. It's great. It's great poking fun at the villain. Very subtle. Another thing I thought was super clever, Erica is disguised as Annalise and she's being presented to the queen and to the ambassador. There's a little blip where Julian steals the queen's spectacles. Now this is extremely important, actually really pragmatic, because a mother will recognize her own daughter. Like, even if there's a doppelganger, she would have been able to tell that that wasn't her daughter. Just the fact that the writers considered the audience smart enough and the characters smart enough to notice that and had Julian steal her spectacles, and then it becomes a recurring joke where like up until the end, she keeps saying, where are my spectacles? Where the heck did my glasses go? It's not until the very end wedding scene she somehow gets them back. She puts them on as Annalise is coming through and she's like, my daughter! And it's just great. It's just a great little thing that they put in there just for fun and just because they actually gave a crap, right? They actually gave a crap and assumed that their characters were a little smarter than the people in Superman, you know. Then the last one, I'm sorry. Last one is kind of more just like a fun thing that I like, and it's just how little chill this movie has. Like, obviously this is a G-rated movie. There's nothing in here that's like, I would even consider like a true innuendo, but this movie has so many like G-rated curses in it, it's hilarious. As a kid, I found it funny. Moron, idiot, simpleton, stupid, shut up. Like, there's just like so many of these words that like we're told, you know, don't say those, you know, that's mean, but like they're not actually curse words, especially the villain. He is like, if this had been, you know, a non-G-rated movie, there would have been F-bombs and A-bombs and S-bombs all over the place. Like, it would have been hilarious, but I just love the implications of having your character say all these really benign curse words. You can just see Martin Short in the booth going, yeah, we're all pain in the ass, and then being like, okay, we'll do another take and I'll say it behind. It's great. It's great and it's fun, and as an adult you also enjoy it because you know it's the best they could do to convey, like, you know, cussing in a Barbie movie. It takes some liberties. Liberté, you know. Okay, so that's it. I'm sorry, that's all I've got. I'm talked out. I am funked out. If you have not watched this movie, first of all, go watch it, please. Like, I hope I've convinced you that it's worth watching. It's not a waste of your time. You know, it's not a waste of brain space for a Barbie movie. It is overall considered within the Barbie nostalgic community to be like the best of the repertoire, honestly. And there's like some debate, but like most of us that grew up with the movies like can pretty universally agree this is one of their best. A lot of things went right. They had competent writers, they had a competent director, they had competent musicians and singers. It was just the perfect storm for the best possible Barbie movie, and it's super enjoyable. And if you haven't watched it, I guarantee you, if you're a Gen Z or a millennial, you know somebody that has a DVD. So go find her, and I am certain that she will be more than happy to lend them to you. All right, until next time, keep it weird and live your dream.
Wearing simpleton! I've been throwing, I've been scraping, I've been lying like a rug, and for 10 long years I've had to pay my dues. But today I'm escaping, for the last gold has been dug. It was waiting there, so how could I refuse?